Aloha. This is podcast 55. I'm doing this on relationship barometers. I've been recording podcasts for a little over a year now, and hands down, my largest number of downloaded episodes are always about relationships. I believe as humans we need connection, and we need to figure out how to do this. So, I'm going to give you a couple maybe new objective reflections when looking at this. And I'm using the term barometer, as unusual as that is, because often in counseling I talk about, like, are we weathering a personal storm, or is our relationship in a place of a storm? And that just means that it's cloudy and a lot's going on, and anger and sadness and tears, and we can't really see clearly anywhere in the horizon. And that happens personally and in our intimate relationships. So the term barometer, I believe, reflects well here. So I'm going to bring up a couple points about self-reflection and generosity, allowance, and tolerance in relationships. So self-reflection first. Oftentimes, again, counseling, when it has to do with relationships or wanting a new relationship and not making the wisest choices in the past, is I often ask them, like, not necessarily what were the themes or the issues in past relationships, but what do you bring to the table, and what do you find are your shadow points? Like, what are your areas to cultivate that make you uncomfortable, that make you feel vulnerable? And really look at that. And then when you know that, when you know what you're offering someone, and when you know what your limitations are, or your edge, your area to work on, and you're compassionate with that, then you can share that with someone that you meet. Not the first date, but after a time where you see that they're worthy of trust and they have a depth to them, and asking them what are their issues of shadow work. What is their issues that ran a common theme in all of their relationships, because it usually will reflect itself over and over again. I find ultimately our relationship with the mother and father will come up in our relationships, in our intimate partnerships, because it's our psyche trying to work out our past. And it's also it's often an unconscious projection onto the partner, that mother or father, their pluses or minuses, and what needs didn't get met through those earlier relationships. And again, if we can't bring awareness to it and consciousness to it here in the now, then there's not much chance of survival. So clearing our past, there's times that we actually have to consciously review that past, and it makes it beneficial. So back to our relationship barometer. So popular articles and therapists will all agree that communication is number one. It's the number one factor that needs attention and work towards having a great relationship. So regardless if this is with an intimate partner, with a friend, with a coworker, or family member, and guess what? As humans, overall, we suck at as being communicators. We kind of speak sideways, or we tell our truth to someone that in no way can hurt us or reject us or judge us. So instead of saying it to the person we need to, we're afraid to. And as a society, we're rarely taught how to communicate our needs and express ourselves in an elegant fashion. So I do all sorts of counseling for depression and anxieties and detoxes and self-care routines and all of those various things. And I really love my relationship and couples counseling. So I've been doing this for a couple of decades now. Even in my 20s, I had enough insight into seeing why a relationship wasn't functioning optimally. So, and I've used that and cultivated that through the years through my education and learning and experience. So, technically, when someone comes to me for counseling, and generally in the 20s, in the age of the 20s, we, sorry about that, in our 20s, people tend to suffer silently. They believe that their relationships, that any relationship is better than being alone, even if your needs aren't met. So that's unfortunate. But when I get frustrated with my daughter or my son and their relationships while they're in their 20s, and I obviously see what is needed there, I have to remember in my 20s, I was figuring it out too. And oftentimes it's about removing doubt. So if nothing else, we have to spin it on a positive note and see with each connection what doesn't work for us. And then oftentimes what's left is discovery of our authentic self and then looking for that in an intimate relationship. So, decades of our 30s and 40s, I found more of a direct correlation how the relationships are because the self-confidence is stronger. You usually have cultivated a stronger sense of purpose on a grander scale because your work, your community, your friendships have been around and consistent for a while. You tend to understand your worldly impact, and so therefore your relationships become sometimes easier, and sometimes we exclude the relationships because our focus is so much on our work and career in those decades that we don't give our partner the time. I was talking to someone this week saying that not only do you need to find a way to not be a workaholic and to carve time for yourself, just self-time, but once you consistently establish that, then you have to see how to carve out time for a potential new relationship, because those are two different tasks. Those are two different obligations, in a sense, that are necessary. So it doesn't mean that if you work 7 days a week, 12-hour days, and then you suddenly start taking an hour or two for yourself and you right away get into a relationship that you met on a dating app, because if you give that person that little bit of time you squirreled away, you're going to start resenting them because you have nothing for yourself. So if you want a successful relationship, you have to have time in addition to everything else, all the other obligations, all the other needs in our life. You have to have personal self-care time. And that could be socializing with your friends, that could be working out, that could be meditation, that could be going on hikes, that could be any of those things. I love being on the lake, etc. But you also need to know this time I'm willing to offer to a partner. And it's one-on-one. Like, I'm not multitasking. I'm just with my partner. And that's my commitment. And the relationships will reflect that, because it means what you're saying is you matter to me. And you matter enough that I will carve out time for you and not make you feel like you have to steal it or compete for attention to get time with me. So having that validation of knowing that you matter to someone and you offer that to someone also is helps us. So know that, reflecting about your 30s and 40s, and ask yourself that question, because I have to say that I was a culprit of that. I went through 2 marriages, and it was always my daughter, my business, and my partner, and then I was under that. And neither of those were I learned a lot from both relationships, and I value the experiences of both of them, but they had no chance of being lasting because my barometer was off. I had my priorities off, and in a sense, I didn't even have a right to a relationship or to expect a relationship. I'd say have the courage to know that, wait a minute, I'm in a time that I'm working a lot in my life, and I'm trying to build my career and my business and myself, and that this matters to me, that I have this personal time, and it's not about relationship right now. And just know that that's okay too. Don't buy into society and what you believe should happen by a certain age. Honor and be authentic to where you're at in your life and what really matters, not what you think you should have. I shouldn't be in a relationship and start to have children by a certain age if that's not what's really ringing true to you. So, basically, no relationship could sustain a healthy balance unless both people are showing up and doing their personal work, their understanding their needs and their self-realizations, and communicating that. So the first step is always going to be self-discovery in knowing intimately your core needs and how to get them primarily met through your own means, and when it does have to do with another person, then how to communicate that. And the second part of that is really about learning to communicate in a non-whiny, non-demanding, non-controlling, non-selfish way that you are a factor also. So I don't know which side of the scale you tend to be on, where you give too much or you don't claim enough, but it's usually off kilter. It's usually not in a balanced way. So look to see what your tendencies are, and then learn to find that middle way and communicate that in a way that your partner can hear it. And yes, there's always the fear that if I speak my true needs, if I finally speak it to my partner, that he or she is going to say, I'm sorry, I can't give you those needs. And at that point, then I need to be responsible and care for myself and leave the relationship or change the nature of the relationship, because now I know, after articulating it, after knowing what my needs are and communicating it, our greatest fear is the confirmation that the partner says, no, I'm not going to give you that. Or they make it like vague, somewhere in the future it might happen. And how many years are you going to waste before you see, wait, I want my needs met now? From me, I'll meet my primary needs, and then a partner that's willing to say, let's look at this. Let's see how both of us could have our needs met. So basically, in this relationship, I remind the clients that it's about two people finding a world that works for them and seeing where and how you can meet on the various issues. So often I find that one partner is having an issue in the relationship while they finally have the courage, as I said, to communicate it. They usually explain the problem and the solution. So I have found this to be very common, where when someone finally brings up an issue to their partner who may have no clue what you're talking about, but for you, you've been festering for months, and this is a chronic, ongoing issue that is causing you discontent, and you finally have your voice speak up, but you come up with the issue and the solution without ever sharing this with your partner. Now, I want you to hear how this isn't okay. You're not learning how to be in a relationship, which a relationship is reciprocal, unless you have the courage to voice the issue that is causing discontent, that a need isn't being met, and asking, are you willing to talk about this, and maybe we could brainstorm and come up with solutions that will meet both of our lifestyles, both of our needs. So, you are not a single entity working on solving something. You are a single entity learning to acknowledge two single entities that need to trust this partnership, this third entity, and acknowledge that I can speak about concerns of mine, we can brainstorm, and we can find new ways of living and solutions. That's kind of the beauty of it, where often if we have wounds from parents that limited us or didn't acknowledge us or give us the time we needed, and now we're in a relationship, and in our subconscious we believe, my husband, my boyfriend, my partner doesn't ever listen to me. They ignore me. They don't care about my needs. It's all about them. And sometimes, if this is a wound from our past, we're filtered and view it that way, and we can't see all the times they say, "How was your day? And what's happening with you? And do you want to share what's going on?" Because perhaps they are there, and you're not able to do it because you're bringing up your past and you're projecting it onto this relationship. So there are so many ways of looking at this. So realizing the patterns that limit or prevent true partnership will give you the direction where your personal work is needed. So looking at more than communication as our barometer, qualities such as generosity, allowance, and tolerance play a big factor in sustainability and harmony. Let's see this. Turn the page. Okay. So generosity is asking yourself, how generous are you towards your partner on a regular basis? So this is looking at how much quality time you give them without distraction or multitasking. How available are you when they are struggling or they need support, even if you're tired? Without them having to ask, you just show up and say, "I see you're having a hard time. Do you want to share with me?" And like being generous with your time and with your acknowledgement of their struggle. How likely is it that you take into account activities, foods, movies that they enjoy and initiate time including those preferences? Or do you always say, "This is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to watch, this is what we're going to listen to, this is what we're going to eat"? So really asking, what would be the ultimate meal that you would love? What is your favorite food? Is it Indian? Is it French? Is it Mexican food? What is it? And what makes you just so happy? And knowing okay, I like more of a action movie. I like to go on hikes. I like to do something more vigorous. And even if it's not your favorite thing, that you're going to consider that. Your generosity of spirit is going to say, let's have a day like all about you. And how generous are you in that? And speaking about intimacy and sexuality, or with your sense of touch, how generous are you? Are you affectionate with them in public? Are you putting your holding hands or touching their arm or giving them little kisses? Are you, when you're in your sexuality, like how are you? Like, do you have a routine that this is always how we do this? Or do you discuss this? Do you say, let's try something new, let's breathe together, let's something? Or why don't you just lie back and let me massage you and see where this goes? Like, where are you in that? And you ask yourself those questions. So these are powerful questions. And each of your answers, like, write it down and independently and honestly, then ask your partner to do these same questions and say, like, what is a wish list of something that we would do on our day together? Like, what would be the ultimate day for you? And what would that look like? And what would be the ultimate intimate sexual encounter you would like, and what would that look like? And then you both share this and discuss this and learn from each other. Okay, I never knew that about you. We've been together 10 years, and where did that come from? Okay, let's do this. Let's try it. So when you share with each other in a non-judging, open-minded, and open-hearted way, and you come up with suggestions for new and creative and improvement, it definitely takes a moment of change in the atmosphere, in the weather of your relationship, and it will bring that sun out, adding what you want, what your wishes are, and also remember to praise each other, that this is what I really love that you do consistently. I really love it every time you come and give me a kiss when you come home. I really love it when you make the bed when we get up in the morning. I love that you always bring me coffee. I love that you text me throughout the day or email me and check in with me. I love that. Like, giving those praises is also good versus always having a complaint when you're talking about what they're not doing. So, we want you to be using this as a reciprocal brainstorming plan towards greater satisfaction in getting both of your needs met and having new experiences. So now let's look at the factor of tolerance and allowance in relationships. So both of those qualities are fundamental and they're needed to establish a healthy relationship. So these qualities of tolerance and allowance is the acknowledgement of your differences and allowing space for each of you to be who you are, and not always compassion or acceptance, yet tolerance is sometimes more accurate. So we could hear the spiritual masters and Jesus in that saying, be compassionate and acceptance of your partner and everyone in your life. Well, sometimes we can't do that. It's like it's so polarized from our beliefs and our values that we can't do that. But to have tolerance is more accurate, because what I'm saying is it means I respect my partner and love them enough to allow the space for them to grow and express and be whatever the filter of what they want to be, whoever they are without my filter of what I want them to be. Who are they? I really want to know who they are. So when we exhibit this quality, we're cultivating trust from the other person that we see them. We all want to be seen. We want to be seen clearly. We want to allow their true nature to shine through without judgment. So let's make a distinction. There are qualities to talk about in an open, curious way where we share specific needs, not wants. These are needs, meaning I need this to function and be happy and open, and see how to find a way to meet those needs while still sharing and being true to oneself. And then there are qualities that are innate, and no amount of therapy can change it. And we need to find peace and allowance for these sometimes. So align like differences. So these are, I have connected couples that either they're together for so long and they're having issues, or they've not quite discovered that their true natures and needs are so vastly different and so great that it will be impossible to find a middle ground, to even through brainstorming, to find a meeting area without someone always losing, and then losing their sense of self and security. So in relationships, it's not about who's the best salesperson or negotiator, or who's the bully, or who's the controlling one, or the stronger one saying this is how it is. Because in time, regardless if it's months or years, the person not getting their needs met will wake up one day and say, I have to exist. I'm not invisible. So being generous and loving to yourself and your partner, sometimes when you see you're in a relationship that you've grown apart or that you don't have enough commonalities, that there's always so much compromise just to have a day together and one or the other is not happy or is going along with it. Just that is enough to kindly say, maybe we need to change the the nature of our relationship, just for the goodness of each other, just because you really deeply love each other, but it's going to be too much work, with or without counseling. So I want to clarify that. So there are times all relationships need discussion and looking at specific issues and needs, and then coming to the table, planning to brainstorm and how could we make this work for both of us. And that's wonderful. I feel seen, you feel seen, everybody's needs are met. And then there are times you're with someone that you're so different in your values and your views and your needs that it doesn't matter if you did couples counseling every week, that there's no way to change the core of who you are. And the wisdom would come in seeing that and saying, I love myself and I love you so much that I think it's time for us to change the nature of our relationship and perhaps be friends, because I want you to continue to grow. It's like two trees that are growing apart. So that has happened often. So we talk about, I won that argument. You do not want to win in a relationship, because again, when you win in a relationship, someone's losing, and it means they're not getting their needs met. So we want to keep that for sports and other things instead of our relationship. So it's not about being the stronger one. It's about being the present one, and you both discussing this and fully showing up. So now, when we're looking at core needs and making sure they're met and learning tools for skillful means in communication, so if we learn to communicate calmly, kindly, clearly, and effectively to find new ways of relating that will meet both persons' needs, then our relationship begins to prosper and grow on its own, in a like new life to it. Again, sometimes in relationships, only one person comes for counseling and the other partner is too fearful of counseling. And as I said before, oftentimes the fear of counseling or discovering or looking beneath the carpet, in a sense, looking at what we're really afraid of, is a confirmation of that deep knowingness that why are we doing this? Why are we in this relationship? Or I'm going to have to change, and I don't have the courage or the desire to change right now. And sometimes we don't want to acknowledge that. But I've said to people, so one young client that I'm working with, I said, counseling is going to do one of two things, even without your partner counseling. One is you're going to be clear with your needs, and you're going to start to fulfill those needs and feel more self-confidence and more strength in who you are, and the impact of the need of the relationship being your only exclusive fulfillment in life is going to lessen because you are becoming stronger. So in realizing that's not the best relationship for you, it will be easier to end it in a kind and compassionate way. The other thing that could happen through counseling when it's only one of you doing it is you really do your ruthless self-honesty work. You start changing the way your actions are and the way you communicate, and your partner sees this and responds differently. And sometimes it entices them, okay, let me check that counselor out. And they're like, I really see a difference in you. There might be something to this. And then again, there's new life, new breath, a sunny days ahead. So when we come with sincereness to look into our shadow side and bring awareness to what's the unconscious patterns are, there are hope. So summarizing this, self-realization and insights into why we are the way we are. Tools about self-care and communication and commitment to truth and overall wanting the best for both parties will result in understanding of the truest potential of our relationship, be it love, partnership, friends, someone that was a catalyst in my life and now it's over, whatever it is, but really clearly seeing what is the nature of the relationship for the highest good of all parties. And again, keep doing your work and learning what your needs are, because your needs may change through time as your experiences change, your needs may change. I mean, our core needs kind of are fundamental, like I need space, I need compassion, I need connection, I need touch, I need to be outside a lot, I need the lake, the water, the ocean, all of those things, exercise. So some needs don't change, but then sometimes we come on to this new chapter in our life and we're surprised. Wait a minute, I need a lot more personal time than I've ever had before. And to have the courage to show up and acknowledge that. If it's going to be through your own journaling first, I often say to clients, just journal things you're afraid to say to your partner, or just journal things you wished you had the courage to say, and really allow that and look at it and see what kind of evolves from that point. So I am available for counseling. As I've said many times, since COVID, I've changed my rates to $75 an hour, or if you do weekly sessions, it's 4 sessions for $250, and you can contact me, Samana, SAMANA, at SPALUNA.com, or you can text me, 808-283-7587. We'll do a Zoom call or FaceTime or Skype or whatever you need. And blessings to all of you, and I look forward to continue sharing. And anyone you know that could benefit through these podcasts, please have them follow me, like, and share. And I love feedback. I love comments. So if you're my YouTube people or my iTunes or my Spotify, you could email me, you could text, you could give comments, and I love that. I know that somebody is benefiting from this, and that matters to me. So stay healthy, stay well, stay wise. Blessings till next time.